imperishable passage closed. The waking year of nature heard her steps, and wideness turned to her its limitless eye, and scattered on sealed depths her luminous smile kindled to fire the silence of the world.
Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, "My heart is at peace, my mind is free from impatience, and in all things I rely on Thy will, my Lord, with the smiling confidence of a child. With love and blessing," says our Divine Mother. Words of our Divine Mother from the conversations recorded in the year 1929, 30 and 31. Page 143, topic Difficulties in Yoga. Our Divine Mother says, "The nature of your difficulty indicates the nature of the victory you will gain, the victory you will exemplify in yoga. Thus, if there is persistent selfishness, it points to a realization of universality.
Our half-lit ignorance skirts the gulfs on the dumb bosom of the ambiguous earth. Here, where one knows not even the step in front, and truth has her throne on the shadowy back of doubt. On this anguished and precarious field of toil, outspread beneath some large indifferent gaze, impartial witness to our joy and bale, our prostrate soil bore the awakening ray.
Our Divine Mother says, "Thus, if there is persistent selfishness, it points to a realization of universality as your most prominent achievement in future. And when selfishness is there, you have also the power to reverse this very difficulty into the opposite, a victory of utter whiteness." Our Divine Mother says, when you have something to realize, you will have in you just the characteristic which is the contradiction of that something. Face to face with the defect, the difficulty, you say, "Oh, I am like that. How awful it is." But you ought to see the truth of the situation. Our Divine Mother says, "Say to yourself, my difficulty shows me clearly what I have ultimately to represent. to reach the absolute negation of it, the quality at the other pole. This is my mission. Our Divine Mother says, even in ordinary life, we have sometimes the experience of contraries. He who is very timid, has no courage in front of circumstances, proves capable of bearing the most. To one who has the aspiration for the divine, the difficulty which is always before him is the door by which he will attain God in his own individual manner. It is his particular path towards the divine realization.
On time's deep abyss, life's fragile littleness denies the power. The proud and conscious whiteness and the grace she had born with her into the human form. The calm delight that waits one's soul to hold the key to the flaming door of ecstasy.
Our Divine Mother says, to one who has the aspiration for the divine, to one who has the aspiration for the divine, the difficulty which is always before him is the door by which he will attain God in his own individual manner. It is his particular path towards the divine realization. Our Divine Mother says, there is also the fact that if somebody has 100 difficulties, it means he will have a tremendous realization, provided, of course, they are in him patience and endurance, and he keeps the aspiring flame of Agni burning against those defects. And remember, the grace of the divine is generally proportioned to your difficulties, says our Divine Mother. Next topic, Reincarnation Memory of Past Lives. Our Divine Mother says, to understand rightly the problem of what is particularly called reincarnation, you must perceive that there are two factors in which it requires consideration, in it which requires consideration. First, there is the line of divine consciousness which seeks to manifest from above and upholds a certain sense of formation peculiar to itself in the universe, which is in its field of manifestation. Secondly, there is the psychic consciousness which climbs up from below, the seed of the divine, developing through time till it meets the force from above and takes the impress of the supramental truth. This psychic consciousness, says our Divine Mother, this psychic consciousness is the inner being of a man, the material from which his true soul or jiva can be fashioned when, in response to its aspiration, the supramental descends to give it a consistent personality. The exterior being of man is a perishable formation out of the stuff of universal nature, mental, vital, physical, and is due to the complex interplay of all kinds of forces. The psychic absorbs the essence, as it were, of the experiences of the various formations behind which it stands, but not being in constant contact with them, it does not retain the memory of the lives in their totality to which it supplies the background. Our Divine Mother says, hence, by merely contacting the psychic, one cannot have the recollection of all those past lives. What commonly goes by the name of such recollection is mostly either deliberate imposture or a fabrication out of a few spasmodic hints received from within. Our Divine Mother says many people claim to remember their animal lives as well. They say that there was such and such a monkey living in this or that part of the globe. But if anything is certain, it is that the monkey has no contact whatever with the psychic consciousness and so transmits not one jot of his experience to it. Our Divine Mother says the impressions of his exterior monkey nature vanishes with the crumbling of his animal body. To pretend to a knowledge of them is to betray the grossest ignorance of the actual facts of the problem under consideration. Our Divine Mother says,
calamity, its private sight of her bands, she made a mystic poignant sword.
Our Divine Mother says, even with regard to a human life, it is only when the psychic has come to the fore that it carries and preserves definite memories, but certainly not of all the details of life, unless it is constantly in front and one with the exterior being. For, as a rule, the physical mind and the physical vital dissolve with the death of the organism. They disintegrate and return to the universal nature, and nothing remains of their experiences, not until they have become united with the psychic, so that there are not two halves but a single consciousness, the whole nature unified round the central divine will, and this centralized being is connected up with the divine line of consciousness which is above. Not until this happens can one receive the knowledge belonging to that consciousness and become aware of the entire series of forms and lives which were upheld by it as its own successive means of gradual self expression. Our Divine Mother says, before this is done, it is meaningless to speak of one's past births and their various incidents. The precious oneself is just the present impermanent exterior nature, which has absolutely nothing to do with the several other formations behind which, as behind the present one, the true being stands. Only the supramental consciousness
Of her body's voiceless call, her strong, far-winged spirit traveled back to the yoke of ignorance and faith, back to the labor and stress of mortal days, lighting a pathway through strange symboldry across the ebbing of the seas of sleep.
Our Divine Mother says, Only the supramental consciousness holds these spirits as if strung on one single thread, and that alone can give the real knowledge of them all. These are the words of our Divine Mother.